Well, here I am, and welcome back to the little tiny homestead. And I'm outside on my deck. It's kind of a misty, windy day. And we just got through storms this week and some sunny weather. And of course, I choose today to do a video, but I have time today. And so I want to talk about something that's been on my heart and mind for a while. And it happened ever since my niece visited, and she talked about she has no idea how to start a garden. She has no idea what compost is. And so today I would like to talk about how to start a garden, what you need, basically gardening 101. I'm not an expert, but I have some experience in gardening and I want to help other people. And so gardening 101 today. And so to start with, this is really going to be about edible gardening, not about uh, flowers and such. Although I love flowers, they're beautiful. I love beautiful things in my garden. And at some point I'll do a video maybe related to that. So this is really about edibles and making food that is good to feed yourself, to feed your family, food you know is safe. You might just have an interest in watching things grow, or you just really want to have healthy foods, and that would require you to grow them in your own garden. You can get healthy foods from the store, but I would say that you can be certain that you have good food if you are growing it in your garden. So I would like to start with, where can you garden? You can garden anywhere. If you are in an apartment, you can grow food. My son Simon, he has basically an orchard now on his property that he's starting up, lots of fruit trees and shrubs, and it's awesome. But he lived in an apartment for a long time, and he started an apple tree from a seed. I think from an apple that he was eating. Of his setup, and then of course as the apple tree grew, and it is currently in his property. It's really exciting for him. I say all of that to say you can grow anywhere. All you need is a sunny window in your apartment, a balcony. You can have a deck, a porch, and there are methods that you can use without having to have a large yard or property. All right, this is a green stalk planter. You may or may not have heard of them. I have mine on my deck. They are completely worth the cost. They are a planter that you have different sections where you can plant plants. This is so easy if you're in a smaller space or you just have a deck or a porch. It is a wonderful way. You can water it from the top. The water drips down, fills all of these to the bottom. And I do strawberries in mine. I do herbs and lettuces. I do small tomatoes, spoon tomatoes I do in here. So a green stalk planter is compact and very, very worth it, high quality. I would suggest, if you are able, think about investing in one of these. That's one of the methods of container planting. I'm here with some of my containers that I use to grow things, and they're out here next to my garage because we are currently building a new greenhouse, and these usually are in the greenhouse. These are plastic. Getting the terracotta, the clay can, especially in my climate, can freeze and crack with the weather. I do have a clay one over here, but I would not suggest that. This one probably is cracked. I just don't see it. If it is in the greenhouse all the time, it isn't such a problem. It's when you put them outside, or if you have them inside, that's fine. But if you have them outside in the elements, then you'll have a problem. But containers, big ones, you can get so many sizes. I tend to put herbs in some of these. I'm actually growing some asparagus from seed in this one, and various other things. So containers are a great way. You can even have them on a windowsill in your house. So many methods for gardening containers, from flower pots like I said, Rubbermaid totes, whatever works for you. You can also do raised garden beds, and you can spend as much or as little money as you want on a raised garden bed. I do know that there are companies that sell really nice raised garden beds. I know there's Birdie's, I think it's a Vigo, there's probably tons more. They're metal, they're really nice beds. We made our own. They're not the most perfect raised beds, but they do the job. And as they, fall apart, because eventually things don't last forever, we will replace them with something. But I really like the idea of reusing and recycling. And so we've done a lot of that around here. And one of the things we did was using materials, metal materials, wood, for our raised garden beds. This is the first raised bed that my husband built for me. It's made out of, I think, 2x6s, wooden boards, probably treated wood. And in this, I have a lot of my perennials, vegetables. I have rhubarb, asparagus, and I almost consider leeks a perennial. We can talk about that later. But this is filled, and it's fairly shallow, so it didn't take a lot to fill it. In a moment, I will be talking about compost, and this is just topped off compost every year, so it does stay full. Here's an example of a taller raised bed. And like I said, all of ours were made from materials we had around the house. This one happens to be some wood and some metal siding down here. And it is a little bit taller, so it does take more to fill up. If you do have a tall raised bed, generally you would put in some more bulky materials such as sticks and other things like that, so you don't have to have so much soil and compost, and then fill about 4 to 6 inches of compost on top of that. Of course, over time it will decompose, so you will need to keep adding compost, but it is very important to add the fresh compost and nutrients yearly anyway, because they will be depleted over time. And of course, you can put them right into the ground, and they don't have to be raised. This is an example of an in-ground bed. No raised sides, just simply right in the ground. And I will have probably a lot of my brassicas in this one. We're going to be covering this anyway to protect it from pests, because brassicas tend to be eaten by pests. So right now there's just some volunteer kale coming up in here. But in ground, don't need a raised bed for everything. Okay, I'm going to talk about soil. You can use the soil that you have in your yard. However, most of the time, depending on where you live, some of that soil might not hold a lot of nutrients. Some of it could have clay, sand. I would suggest when you are putting your garden together, whether it's in pots or green stalks or raised beds or whatever, that you add nutrients in the form of compost. We have our own compost. This is one of our composters. It is the first one we had. It's a plastic purchased, and it has a little door here where we can get under there and get the good compost out. And this might be a little bit hard to see, but these are our other 3 composters. And they have, and I will be doing a video specifically on this soon, but they have fresh stuff in between, and then we have completed compost. So that is how we feed our gardens. So what exactly is compost? It's just organic materials that have broken down and create nutrients for plants to grow in. And so you can have your own compost. You can also purchase compost, whether it's in bags at your local garden center, or you can also have it delivered from, oftentimes you'll find a place that has compost and mulch and all those things, and they will deliver for a fee if you need a lot to fill raised beds and such. I would suggest if you're doing just pots or a green stalk that you would use it in the form of bags. Do look for organic if you can, but your garden is as healthy as your soil is. The soil is so important. So make sure you are getting good soil so your plants have a good start. Okay, now let's talk about seeds and plants. Should you buy seeds or should you buy plants? I start some of my seeds indoors in March and April. So they're ready to go out and after the last frost date, which for us is mid to late May here in northern Ohio. And I have my peppers and tomatoes growing here. I do have a few cucumbers. My husband requested cucumbers that I start them because he has an experiment that he's looking to do. Not all of the seeds need to be started indoors early. Many of the seeds can be direct sown, which means putting them right into your gardens outside. But of course, after the last frost date. Also, you can start seeds even earlier than that. There are some that like cold weather. For example, peas. I'm just about to start my peas and some other seeds and also my white potatoes, which I'll be starting outside. So, should you use seeds or plants? If you are not ready to start seeds indoors, if you're not ready to save seeds and start seeds indoors, you can buy tomatoes and peppers in the greenhouse or other garden center. If you see them out and you live in a zone like I do, zone 6, 5 to 6, and you see them out in March or April, do not buy them. Do not put them in your garden yet because you have to wait till after the last frost date. Peppers and tomatoes are very tender and they cannot handle frost at all. So these will not go out till later. So you can buy plants directly at the greenhouse or the garden center. So if you decide to do tomatoes and peppers and you don't want to start seeds, just pick up some at any garden center or greenhouse. I also would suggest that you can go anywhere for seeds, literally. You can go to the grocery store, the Dollar Tree. All of these places will have seeds. And I'm not talking about tomato and pepper seeds. What I'm talking about is beans, zucchini, pumpkins. All of these seeds you can find just about anywhere this time of year. And you can put them out and after the last frost and watch them grow, because seeds are not something you have to order online, although you can, and I do tend to do that. But seeds are seeds. Just grow something. What seeds should you buy? What do you like to eat? If you don't like carrots, don't buy carrot seeds. If you don't like pumpkins, don't buy pumpkin seeds. But you can get whatever you like, put them in the ground, and usually there's some directions on the back that would also help you with that. But buy seeds. They're much easier. They're cheap. They're easy to put in the ground, and you don't have to worry about transporting plants. But like I said, if you want to do some frost tender things like peppers and tomatoes, you can also pick those up easily and get those in the ground. So if you are buying seeds and you're putting them directly in the ground, that's called direct sowing. If you buy a plant that has been grown and maybe this tall, tomato, pepper, whatever, that's transplanting them. And there really isn't much difference as far as putting them in the soil and what type of soil you use. They both need to be planted, and there's directions on there at the right depth. And sun is always the best. There you can do some in part shade, which we have a lot of shade here, so we have to really be careful where we put our gardens. But water everything in, and you're set to go. I would suggest starting with something easy if this is the first time you've done this. Maybe you'd like to try beans or zucchini or some other kind of squash, and those are fairly easy to grow. Lettuce is easy to grow. But what I'm hoping for you is that you will start to grow something, no matter where you live, in an apartment, in a small house, wherever. Start growing something, and you won't be sorry. It is a miracle and amazing to watch things pop out of the ground and the fact that you can actually eat them. I do hope that some of this information has been helpful for you and that you will start growing something. And don't be afraid. And until I see you next time, stay rooted. Bye-bye.